Hello, welcome. Come in and take a load off. Here on this channel, we do ASMR tarot readings. I like to conduct them nice and slowly with some nice, slow tapping and card shuffling sounds. Today's reading or readings are going to be pick a card readings for the new year. Slightly belated, I know, but I think we're all still in that space of, or many of us are probably still in that space of closing out 2021 and welcoming in 2022. 2021 was a big, hard year, I'm guessing, for a lot of us. So we're going to try today to clarify what themes and lessons came up during the past year that are now asking to be integrated and closed out. And we're also going to be looking at how to move forward. What are we being invited to focus on in this coming year? And all of this, of course, applies to right now, but I don't believe that we can fully predict everything that's going to come, especially over the course of an entire year. So this will be, what's coming through at the moment, but always remember that circumstances change, our choices change things, everything is always in flux. So with that little caveat aside, as I said, this is going to be a pick a card reading or a pick a pile reading, as I will be drawing more than one card per. So the first thing I'm going to do before we get started is light a candle and set an intention for this reading to be in highest and greatest good to all involved. And that includes the planet and all of their beings and creatures and energies as well. Alrighty. So, on behalf of your highest and greatest good, and my own, and the highest and greatest good of all, we call upon sacred, benevolent guidance within us and without that is in perfect alignment for this tarot reading. May this reading be conducted only in our highest and greatest good. May each card drawn bless us with its unique medicine, and may we be open and receptive to this healing guidance. May we gain the perspective needed to be present with what is, to tend what is calling for our tending, and to move as appropriate, ever towards aligned and empowered growth. This we make true, and so it is. Alright. Intention set. I now have two objects that I would like to show you for you to choose between. The first one oh, that's a lovely sound. I've never done it on this before. The first one is this beautiful Athame, which was made and gifted to me by a very dear friend. And Athames are very good for cord cutting, for drawing circles of protection, for mental clarity as well. I like to use this Athame in my readings to help me to really slice through to the core of the matter. And this particular Athame also has this lovely little rose quartz at the end, and this sweet little bell as well. And bells are good for clearing too. So that's one of your choices. The next choice we have is this wand. And this wand was made by me. I wish I knew what kind of wood it is. I found this stick out in nature, and I unfortunately do not know which tree it came from. I did ask if it was okay to take, and I'm pretty sure I got a yes on that one. Well, I hope I did. So yes, this wand has an amethyst tumble right at the tip and attached by copper wire. And wands are of course good for directing energy, and I actually have a friend who uses hers in meditation, and that's something I've been wanting to try recently. But yes, wands are much more action oriented, and this particular piece I feel incredibly empowered when I'm holding it. So that is choice number 2. And so for each of these, we will start with the wand, I believe. And I'm going to pull some cards, and if you desire to get the reading with the wand, keep watching. If you chose the Athame, I will leave in the description box below the timestamp for that particular reading. If you have chosen the wand for your reading, I will now be drawing cards for you. I'm going to be using 2 different decks today. We have the Food Hexa Tarot by M.J. Cullinane and the Maiden Oracle by Layla and Olive. I will begin with the Food Hexa Tarot. And I will be drawing 3 cards from this deck after I give it a nice good shuffle. The first card is going to represent the most important lesson from 2021. The next card is going to give us advice on how to integrate that lesson. The next card is going to represent the most important invitation of 2022. And lastly, from the Maiden Oracle, I'm going to pull a card of guidance, support, and encouragement for the upcoming year. Alright, let's see what we got. For the biggest lesson of 2021, we have the Tower. That does not surprise me even a little bit. For how to integrate that lesson, the lesson of the Tower, we have the Nine of Water, Nine of Cups, traditionally. For the biggest invitation of 2022, we have the Chariot. And our advice, our guidance, our words of support and encouragement are a budded angle. So, the biggest lesson we were learning in 2021 was the Tower. Not an easy card a lot of the time, although I have drawn it and found it welcome. The Tower asks us to surrender to, or potentially actively help the tearing down of structures in our lives that are no longer serving us, that have been built upon a foundation that cannot sustain them anymore. The Tower comes through and can sometimes quite violently tear down those structures that we've built around ourselves, often to keep ourselves safe and comfortable. We always build towers for a reason, and there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes those towers are keeping us prisoner instead of keeping us safe. Or maybe a better way to put it is sometimes safety is a prison. And I don't mean safety from violence or hunger or unstable housing conditions. That's not the kind of safety I'm talking about. We all need a baseline of security, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about the kind of safety that keeps us stagnant, that keeps us from growing, the kind of comfortable safety that is very easy to sink into and can keep us quite stuck in what is familiar. And again, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about a life full of pleasure and joy. Those things are beautiful and important too. This is particularly something that is no longer serving us in some way. That's the kind of tower that needs to come down in our lives. Considering that this was a year of a lot of revelations for some folks around the structures and systems of white supremacy, of patriarchy, and of capitalism in our society. Although many of us already knew those were a thing, but I believe that the tower did come down for a lot of people this year around that, and so although this is a scary card to pull sometimes, it can be incredibly freeing and beneficial for us if we can work with its energy and let it pull the wool from our eyes so that we may see the faulty foundations in the micro of our own lives and in the macro of the systems in which we exist and in which we participate, whether that is intentionally or not, or even consensually or not. But that was a big lesson this year, this tower, and the upheaval that the tower can bring often can leave us feeling a little destroyed after it's ripped through our lives, but in the end, it is meant to come in and take down what maybe we couldn't do ourselves. Next, we have the card that can help us to integrate the lessons of the tower that we learned in 2021, and this is a much different energy. Quite a beautiful energy, but also a hard one sometimes, because the Nine of Water ultimately is about emotional vulnerability. It's about touching in with our heart's true desires. It's about hope and faith and connection to our own heart and to the hearts of others. And the Nine of Water tells us that we need soothing, we need peace, we need healing after the tower, and that those lessons are integrating on their own in the background, what we need to focus on, or what we are being invited to focus on at the moment, is touching in with the heart. What does it need from us? We might be a bit shook up at this time. We might be uncertain about where we're headed next. We might be worried that this coming year is going to be just as intense and chaotic as the last two really have been. And the Nine of Water says, be with your heart now. Ask it what it needs from you. What fruit does it want to eat? Do you have a bathtub? And I know not all of us do, but even a shower, being really present while taking it, maybe doing a little bit of a cleansing bath if that's available to you, if that's something that feels right. Connect with water in any way you can. If you're lucky enough to live by it, make a point of spending some time near it. The Nine of Water says sometimes we don't have to actively integrate, we just need to give ourselves the healing that we need at this moment, the heart healing that we need after such a chaotic and tumultuous year. There are little dragonflies on this card, and this woman is wearing the beautiful pearls. This figure is wearing beautiful pearls, and everything's just calm and lovely in this card. Not all of us have calm, lovely lives, but can you create even a minute of space for yourself where you can just breathe? Next, we have the Chariot, which is no small invitation. This year, we are being invited in small ways and large ones to move beyond our egos, not to repress them or disown them, for they are an important part of who we are, but we don't necessarily want them to be running the show, having the final word, directing where and when we go this way or that way. There are parts of us that are more in tune with what is truly best for us and this world than the ego. And the Chariot says, you have reached a point now. You have created an ego strong enough for you to leave it behind a little bit, or let it take the back seat. A metaphor I learned from my tarot teacher, Lindsay Mack. They describe it as, who do you want driving your car? The Chariot says there is a deeper call within you, something that wants to take risks, that wants to be wrong, make mistakes, fail even, so long as it means that we've tried. The Chariot is the thing that can carry us forward further than our ego can. Carry us forward into the next line of the major arcana, which is all about discovering that we are not who we thought we were, and that the world is not as we thought it was. And in that space of realizing how little we know, we can learn so much. We are being invited to step off a cliff this year with the Chariot into the void of the unknown. And it is going to be scary, and it is going to be growthful, and it is going to help us to journey into worlds that we never could even have imagined if we can take the invitation of the Chariot, if we can fly off that cliff with them. And lastly, we have our advice, our encouragement, our support for this year. And the card we have is Sweet Pea, a budded angle. And I am going to read for you from the guidebook for this oracle deck, because each card comes with a little poem and they are just beautiful. There we go. There is such hope in budding, and there's also a point. The budded angle, sweet peas appeal to our most acute senses amid adversity, provides keen sight towards resolution. Against even the most opaque facades, there's an angle through, and for a time, that angle's you. Such a sweet and simple message that we've got this. We can step off that cliff. We can recover from the tower. We can touch into our heart's desires and needs and nurture ourselves in exactly the way that we need. The angle is you. You only need to remember that there is always a way through, no matter how dark things may seem. The angle is you. If you chose the Athame for your reading, I will now be drawing cards for you. We will be using 2 decks today. the Furhexa Tarot deck by MJ Cullinane, and the Maiden Oracle by Layla and Olive. So I'm going to give the Furhexa deck a nice good shuffle, and I'm going to pick 3 cards. The first card is going to represent the biggest lesson from 2021. The next card is going to give advice on how to integrate that lesson. Then we will pull a card for the biggest invitation of 2022 at this time. And lastly, from the Maiden Oracle, I will be pulling a card for advice, encouragement, support for the upcoming year. So, for the biggest lesson, 2021, we had the 10 of Fire. A card that can give us some advice on how to integrate that lesson is the Ace of Earth. The biggest invitation of 2022 is the Star. And for advice, we have Lily, Hist Remiss. The 10 of Air tells me that for those of us who chose the Athame, sorry, 10 of Fire, 10 of Fire, tells me that the biggest lesson that we were learning over the past year was how to unburden ourselves. We may have realized at some point over the last year that we have taken on too much, potentially have been doing so for years, maybe even our entire lives. Here we see a fairy barely able to hold themselves upright. A bag on their back, a heavy weight too much to carry. There are a lot of reasons why we feel like we can't put our burdens down. A lot of those reasons have to do with the way we are socialized. As a society, we value those who hustle, who are productive constantly, who do not take breaks, who do not rest. Burnout can almost be seen as a badge of honor. On top of this, we may feel our responsibilities keenly. We may have always been the ones who had to take on too much. The Ten of Fire was teaching us over 2021 that it is okay to stop. It is okay to say this goes no further. I'm putting this down, maybe for now, maybe forever, but I am putting it down because I cannot stand under this weight anymore. Although it is a scary card to look at, this is truly a beautiful lesson for us to be learning. I think for a lot of us it has been maybe one of the only benefits, silver linings to this pandemic, is that we've slowed down enough to realize just how tired we have been, how unsustainable our workload, our responsibilities have been. The Ten of Fire is an ally in letting go and saying, this is not mine to carry any longer. Maybe it was at one point. Maybe it never was. But either way, it's time to let it go. The card that can help us to integrate that lesson from 2021 is the Ace of Earth. A lovely card of planting new seeds. Planting seeds of growth, both internal and external, in the world. Planting seeds that our soul desires to nourish. Getting a spark of an idea for a project or a hobby or a completely internal growth cycle. The Ace of Earth reminds us that there is a reason we let some things go, because new things want to come through, things that are more in alignment for us, things that will nourish us as we nourish them. The suit of Earth of Pentacles is often shown as a garden, and this is the first seed planted towards that end. This is such a sacred energy of being invited, being handed this beautiful seed that wants to be nourished and tended by us. And we have been creating the space for this seed to come through and to help us to not return to the old way of doing things. We must plant this seed, whatever it is, for you, but it's something, and it wants to grow in your garden. And here we have the star as the invitation for 2022. The star is such a beautiful energy This is a card of healing, deep, deep rest and healing. This is a card of feeling supported, of being supported, of letting ourselves be supported. And through this healing, so much growth around us and within us. It brings magic to our fingertips and helps us to help this garden surrounding this beautiful figure to bloom. This card talks about the kind of healing that cannot help but ripple out and help and heal others as well. We have learned now that it is okay to put down your burdens and to rest. Now we get to do that. We get to do that over this coming year. And this doesn't mean that we take a break from our job and our family and put everything down and go off into a cabin in the woods. This means that throughout our day, when we have time, we touch in and we let ourselves heal as we go about all of our normal things, but tending to what matters, not what weighs us down. Making space and prioritizing healing is going to be important this year. Prioritizing rest, where you can get it, when you can get it. The star wants to help you. It will come in during those 5 minutes if you can find them to breathe. It wants to support you on your healing journey. And if you can make even just a little bit of space for that to come in, the star will help you. Lastly, we have our advice for the upcoming year. This card from the Maiden Oracle deck is called Lily, Hist Remiss. And first, I will read from the guidebook for this card because each card comes with a beautiful poem. Here we are, XL. We must neglect our duties to the few, so to remain self-approved and only to ourselves true. Maiden's lily stands at an altar of earthly responsibility, unscathed by rigid structures and defiant in her take on courtly independence. When they force a form of remiss on us, we must blow a kiss and hiss. There may be people this year, or it might be a part of us, an old story we're clinging to. Either way, anyone, ourselves included, will tell us that we need to go back to the old way of doing things. hiss at them. Don't actually hiss at them. Well, I mean, maybe if you want to. Don't believe them. Don't let it throw you off. Listen if it's yourself, if it's a story that you're telling yourself. Give it the honor of being listened to. And then continue on. Continue on planting the seeds that you want to be planting. And giving yourself the rest and the care and the healing that you deserve. Get a little shirty if you have to, but don't listen. Well, that was your reading for 2022. I very, very much hope it is helpful for you. I hope you had beautiful holidays and just the loveliest new year, and I wish you all the best in this year to come. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.